I'm Sarina Fazan, taking a risk, making a difference, and changing the course of your life. Remarkable stories from people defying the odds. You're listening to On the Record. Hi, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us. Boy, I have such a special story to share, and I'm very excited to talk to two amazing women. We are recording out of Tampa, Florida. I'd like to introduce Debbie Lundberg and Debra Palmer. So, Debra, let's start with you. Several years ago, you started to feel sick. Tell us what was happening.
Okay, and thanks for having us on your podcast.
Of course. Wait until you hear their amazing connection. Okay, we're going to get to that. All right. I'm sorry, I interrupted, but go ahead.
That's okay. 25 years ago, I'm a self-employed entrepreneur, and I was working and healthy, and just everything was great, but I started having a lot of fatigue, really feeling tired to the point of, debilitating type of fatigue. I had to stop at the end of the day, and that's all I could do. So I knew something was wrong, and started going to doctors, and had gone to several doctors and was getting a diagnosis of fatigue syndrome. But it wasn't getting any better, and the prescription was go home and rest. Well, resting wasn't doing anything, so I continued on and finally met a doctor, an older doctor who's no longer with us, but he recognized the symptoms right away and knew what testing to start, and started testing for renal failure. So what was happening to me was my kidneys were failing. No known reason. I have no other underlying health conditions. I was young, healthy. I don't have diabetes. I don't have high blood pressure. There no known family, history of kidney failure, but my kidneys were failing.
That's so scary. That's so scary.
Plus, being the kind of person that, was on the go all the time and working. I didn't really ever go to the doctor, so I didn't even really know what kidney failure meant. I just had no concept other than I just did not feel well.
Debra, I'm going to stop you right there for 1 minute because I should have probably set it up a little bit better at the beginning, but Debbie is going to, you guys are going to undergo a kidney transplant, and I want to get to how the two of you met, but I should have said that at the very beginning, so that's the connection, but go ahead and continue with your story.
Okay. So I started on kidney dialysis, and that encompassed going to a dialysis center every other day for about 3 to 4 hours, and virtually that's all, you do for the day. Once you go for dialysis, you're pretty well out for the rest of the afternoons. But the next day I'd go to work and, keep my business going and that sort of thing. Well, that went on for about 6 months. And my doctor at the time, Stephen Rifkin, recommended or suggested that I consider a kidney transplant 25 years ago. And then miraculously, which doesn't usually happen, my kidney function improved and stabilized enough for me to get off dialysis and not require any further treatment. For the past 25 years, my function has been diminished, but I have been able to get by fine. I am a little tired, that kind of thing. And then at the beginning of 2019, as time has gone on and age sets in, the function is now diminished to a point where I can no longer continue without a transplant or dialysis. And my doctor now has had recommended get on the kidney transplant list. So before it becomes too bad. And in 2019, I went through the process to get on the list to receive a kidney transplant as I continue to diminish, per se, and wait. So,
and you shared your story.
I shared my story and really, Sarina, I guess as far as Debbie and our connection, I really like Debbie to tell the story.
Yes, because
she's got a great story to tell. And to be honest with you, I really think the story is about Debbie more than it is about me.
Well, you both are amazing, and I'm stepping all over you, so I apologize. But to pick up the story from there, you are posting and sharing this very personal story and how much you need a kidney to survive. So Debbie, you see her post.
Right. And it's funny because, like I say, the story is Debra's story to tell. And she says it's mine. And it's interesting, the people who've met us over this recent time who say we share certain attributes. And so it really is interesting. So what happened, it was November of 2019, and Debra and I were, as she said, acquaintances and social media connected, and certainly I'd admired and enjoyed the time with her, but we'd never had a one-on-one conversation outside of a hello, but, again, had a nice rapport from that socially distant, to use that terminology, from back then. And so I was familiar with her personal page, and I remember just very clearly that she'd shared from her Debra's Kidney Transplant Journey page, which I wasn't even aware of. She'd shared that because somebody had encouraged her to do that and was asking how she was doing. So it popped up and I read it, and I really was not only touched my heart. I was so impressed with the fact that I'd seen Debra for 4 years at that point and had no idea that she had ever suffered, because her outlook wasn't that way, her attitude wasn't that way. And it's not to say that certainly people who have a challenge can't share it, but she'd certainly overcome it when she was in front of people, and it just been a great contributor to the community. So we met through what was called the Greater Tampa Chamber of Commerce, which is now the Tampa Bay Chamber. And also now we're very involved in the South Tampa Chamber. So we jokingly say we're a chamber champion story, really, because if you're involved in the community, you meet people who you may become business alliances or friends or kidney cousins, as we call ourselves.
Yes. Now. So you guys knew each other then, as you said, as social acquaintances through your individual businesses. And what do you guys do? Just so people have that background as well. What are your businesses?
So my business right now is Palmer Home and Business Inventory Professionals. And I say right now because I've been a small business entrepreneur for nearly 30 years. This particular business I started about 6 years ago. And what I do is I do home and business inventories. I document contents of people's homes for various reasons. We provide contents appraisals, that sort of thing.
And how about you, Deb?
Oh, thanks for asking. So I'm an author and a performance coach. So in my practice, I write, speak, and train and team throughout the country, typically on communication, behaviors, and relationships.
So you both have a great respect for each other, have known each other professionally for all these years. And Debbie, though, I have to ask you, we see stories all the time, and we see things that can pop up. When I say we, I'm saying the general public, but very few people are moved into action like you were. What made you want to do that? And I know you talked about how you were so impressed with Debra as a person, but to go this huge step that you're taking.
Well, thanks. It really was a little step at first because, and Debra's heard me say this, I said to my husband, I said, wow, I know that I've known this woman. We've not talked much, but I know she's very successful and very, contributes a lot and is very supportive of many groups. And I would have never guessed that she had this medical challenge. And I remember really clearly saying to Michael, I can't imagine what that's like to have that running parallel to everything else you're doing. And I said, I wonder if there's something I could do. And I don't know if I was thinking I could encourage her or I could, offer something. I don't even know what it was I thought I could do, but I just said, and then I remember saying and thinking, I hope there's something I can do. And so as the story goes, I kept thinking the next time I see her, if it's appropriate, I'll ask her. Because again, I wasn't part of her inner circle to say, wow, I learned this about you. It would be more like, hi, I know we haven't really talked a lot and we really like each other, it seems like, and maybe you do and maybe you don't. I mean, it would have been that awkward dance. So we were both at an event for the South Tampa Chamber, and we were both volunteering to collect funds for one of the charities. So we got a picture taken really quickly, but then we were both right back to collecting money and happily doing so. So I thought, well, that's not the right time to ask her. And then we were at the final lunch for the South Tampa Chamber of the Year. And fortunately, we're at the same table, but it was one of those huge round tables of 10 or 12 people, and we were not seated next to each other. But Debra does this really cool thing that is very different than what I do. Is she does this dining with Debra. So she likes to eat. She's a foodie. She knows a ton about food, and she and her husband make all these great dishes. I have 27 different food allergies, so I
Oh my
don't
goodness.
eat out a ton. And so a restaurant stood up and had announced their business, and I just said, Debra. And I remember Debra. I said, maybe we can do that dining with Debra, but we could be dining with Debs and go to this restaurant, because they talked about accommodating allergies. And so she's like, okay. And then time went, the holidays and the new year, but we went in February. And it really was finally at the end of that lunch, we were having a nice lunch. And I said, I saw that post. Do you mind telling me about it? And I couldn't have even told you, and I'm not embarrassed to say this, I couldn't have told you that kidney failure was called renal failure. I mean, when she said it, I recognized it, but it's not as though I knew a lot about it at all. And I just, again, admired her poise. And I remember really clearly, we were sitting across from each other, and Debra said, oh, it's not really bad. And I said, oh, okay. So you don't have to get a kidney transplant. She's like, oh no, I'm going to need a kidney transplant. But again, she was very matter of fact. And I tend to be tremendously optimistic and excited about things. And she was really matter of fact about something that I thought seems like it's really significant. And she shared a little bit very openly, no hesitation. And when I left, I still kept thinking, I wonder if there's something I can do. So
you were hoping for the right opportunity, and you made it happen where you could talk to Debra privately and get a little bit more information on what she was going through out of the respect that you had for her. So Debra, at this lunch, when Debbie's asking you these questions, what are you thinking at this point?
I wasn't thinking a thing about it. I thought we were just getting to know each other better. I had no idea that Debbie had been considering helping me in this way. And in fact, I left there. I didn't even think about us talking about my kidney. I thought we were getting to know each other more from a business perspective.
And so Debbie, then Debbie, back to you. And you have said you always wanted to help Debra, but you weren't sure on how you could help her. After this luncheon, were you thinking, maybe I should see if my kidney would be a match? Had you gone there yet?
Well, I really still didn't know the whole process. So I thought, well, let me see what I could do. And so I was leaving the next day for a flight, because I typically would fly out every, day or two or three during the week. And I said to my husband that night, I think I want to get tested. Now, my sister-in-law's husband had required a bone marrow transplant years back, and my husband and I immediately signed up for Be the Match. And so it was just like, well, that's what you do. If you know someone who needs something, it's like we say we're Team Lundberg. So like we'll bring other people onto our team if they want, type of thing. So the next day I went on and Googled blood type testing, because I got very certain that I was uncertain about my blood type. And Debra's heard me say this before. It's like I'd given blood, I'd done those things, but I kept thinking, I'm not sure. I don't want to say that my blood type if I'm wrong. So lo and behold, Amazon delivers. You can get a blood type testing. So by the time I got back from Texas, Amazon had delivered this little test. And I say little, it's like, very small, bigger than a credit card, but not as large as, say, a dollar bill.
Isn't that amazing?
And so I didn't even take anything out of my bag or anything. I just picked that up, went into our bathroom, opened it, did the blood prick. And I often say this, I just think it's funny. We didn't even have each other's phone numbers in our phones until that lunch, and Debra took some pictures and she texted me a picture. So I had her phone number and I texted back a picture of my little blood sample.
Wow.
I said, I'm A positive. Will that work? Like, I just thought, if my blood works, I guess I'll just be able to give a kidney. I didn't know. And so Debra said that was same blood type. And I said, well, what do I do next? And that's really where Debra guided me through what to do by getting in touch with Tampa General Hospital, because she'd been through it before where people were interested in assisting her, which I didn't know, but she told me what to do. And believe it or not, Tampa General Hospital will not accept an Amazon delivered blood type for you.
Really? Gee, what a surprise. But
imagine. So that was the first step, was getting an official blood type. They take quite a bit of blood, and I'll tell you, the people who were there, they were, it felt like just going to a place where they were so excited to have someone there who was interested. And I felt the warmth right away, and I didn't quite realize the gravity of the reason. Since then, Debra's shed a lot of light on things for me. Like, I didn't know that it takes typically about 4 years for somebody on the transplant list to get a transplant.
It is a very
from
long
a
process.
donor, and that there are 4 times more people who need kidneys than there are donors. So I didn't realize I was stepping into this world where I was around a lot more people who required a kidney and had renal failure than there were people in there testing to give a kidney.
But Debra, let me go to you and that text where Debbie texts you a picture, of the blood test that she got from Amazon. What are you thinking at this point? Like, wow, here's a woman that I've always admired, or, I've known her from afar. We have this lunch. At this point, is it registering that a woman that you didn't really know that well is willing to take this huge step to help you?
Not yet. When I got that text, I was thinking, well, this is interesting. We do have the same blood type, and Debbie had asked me at that luncheon, and I tell this story a lot, Debbie, I don't know that you know that, but she asked me what would make someone want to donate a kidney. And I told her I don't know. I really don't know. It becomes some sort of calling, I think, that something tells somebody this is something that I want to do. And something struck Debbie in that way. When she sent that test, I told my husband, look, this lady went and got a blood test today. And she's a match, and she wants to check into the testing. Like Debbie says, wasn't the first time that this had come up. I had other people that tried. The blood test that she did to type your test, and she can tell you now, is just the tip of the iceberg. There's extensive testing that goes into finding a match. You have to have a tissue match, just all kinds of testing that she's had to endure over the past, 3-4 months, with a little break for COVID in between.
Well, and I want to talk about that too. But prior, you said you'd gone through this before. The other people that try to get tested, were those people that you knew a little bit better? Were they family members or loved ones?
Just one other business associates. I have a lot of good friends. More than you know when something like this comes up, a lot of friends. But it usually stopped with they would contact the transplant center. There's an online form that you fill out, and it would stop at the blood type, or it would stop at you have to be a fairly healthy person to donate a kidney, and it would stop at things like past illnesses or cancer and things like that would not allow them to proceed on. But Debbie is a perfect match in every way. I just cannot tell you, Sarina, you don't know Debbie, but Debbie is the most fit, healthy, mind and body.
Yes,
and soul
I saw the
person.
pictures too. You're beautiful.
She's beautiful.
Yeah.
But she is a perfect match, and I'm just fortunate that somebody that's so healthy and is willing to help me in this way is going through it. So.
Which is amazing, Debra. But Debbie, let me ask you, was your husband at this point, and do you have children? I should have asked you that as well. Do you have children?
No, our children are four-legged, so they're pretty supportive of it. They're black labs, as a matter of fact.
And of course, four-legged children are our children. But was your husband concerned at all? Like, that you were willing to donate a kidney, or your parents, other loved ones? I mean, it's so generous and wonderful. And Debra, I just say that because I'm so excited that you're getting this kidney. But Debbie, did you have concerns from your family that you were going to do this?
Not at all from my husband. And Debra's heard me say this before, but right from the time I got the blood test, I said, I feel like I'm going to be a match. And I knew if I said it out loud to anybody but a few people, it would sound a little crazy. You're not related to this woman. You've just done an Amazon blood test and you think you're a match. But I said it to him, and he says he's my number one fan. He's been a great supporter, but he's also tremendously logical, and he didn't hesitate. Now, I will say we intentionally planned, we spend a lot of time with my aunt and uncle, and they're like half like our brother and sister and half like parents. They're out in California. And even though I did not get the call back yet about the match for even the blood, even though I felt it, we sat down that night with my aunt and uncle out in California when we got there and said, I've made some changes to a few things because I really feel I'm going to be a match.
Wow.
And my aunt and uncle had some questions, but we talked really, really, really openly with them. And they were very happy and excited that Debra would possibly get a kidney, but they wanted to know the risks. And then a few nights later, when we were not staying with my aunt and uncle, we spent one evening over dinner just talking about everything we'd read, and we looked up what happens with the donor, what's the recovery. So we had a very good conversation, and believe it or not, we had a toast to let's hope that I'm able to be a match. And so we really didn't have a lot of negativity with that at all. And then I decided just not to tell people about it, except Debra and Michael and my running partner, because I did make some changes in what I was doing, and of course my doctors. And one of them suggested doing some things differently in how I worked out, because there was a lot of heavy emphasis on weights and that could impact hormones. And so I just made the changes, but told only those people. So when we told everybody, I said to Debra, it's really your story to tell, but let me tell a couple of people beforehand. So I didn't have any resistance to it, just a couple of questions that people had, and I had the answers because I knew in my gut. And I encourage people, even in my practice of performance coaching, is to really listen to that. It's not always perfect, but I rarely meet someone who says, well, I listened to my gut and I shouldn't have. But I meet a lot of people who said, I had this feeling, but I ignored it. And Debra and I were talking, and we've only seen each other once since that lunch. And it was just for a few minutes through mask and in the driveway. And it was just short, but we've talked a lot on the phone. And when I talked to her and said I was going to do the blood test, I was like, I don't know, I just think it's going to happen. And I think she was still thinking I was a little crazy at that point.
Were you, Debra? Were you thinking at this point that I just can't believe that this is happening?
Yeah, I think that every day.
I am a researcher, I'm a journalist, and I should have these numbers, but I don't have the numbers. What is the likelihood that someone could be a match? I remember doing many stories on this, of course, but the percentage is not that high.
I don't know the numbers myself either, Sarina. I'm not a researcher, but outside of a family member, it's fairly...
It's not common. I'll research that and put it in the article.
However, I wanted to say something about that. If someone wanted to, say Debbie wanted to help me, and she wanted to give me her kidney, but we weren't a match. There's a program called a paired match donation. And what would happen is if there's somebody else, maybe in another state, that matched me, Debbie, and that they had somebody there that matched Debbie, Debbie could give that person a kidney, and their person could give me a
kidney. Wow. So
it's like a kidney exchange.
And so, okay, how old are both of you? Debbie, how old are you?
I'm 51.
You're 51, and Debra, how old are you?
You're going to make me say it.
Yes,
I am older than Debbie. I'm 60.
You're 60. So, okay, but this is, if you had not had this kidney transplant, and I hate even talking about it. I mean,
well, I haven't had it yet.
Yeah, it's happening though. Yes, you have not had it yet. It is happening. What would your prognosis have been?
Well, at this point, my transplant is called a preemptive transplant, meaning that hope to get a transplant before I end up on dialysis again. Okay, so dialysis is a treatment for renal failure. People stay on dialysis for years, but if you look at, if you read about it, the average stint for somebody on dialysis statistically is 5 to 6 years.
And it's the quality of life. And it's also
pass away in 5 to 6 years, but dialysis is is not a pleasant lifestyle.
No, quality of life is
however,
so
what to me is more important, Sarina, is if Debbie hadn't stepped up. I've been on the transplant list since about April of last year. I could be waiting another 2 to 3 years for transplant. And what happens is it's called a cadaver donor. Somebody passes away that matches. And like Debbie told you, there's about 3 to 4 more people waiting for transplants than there are available organs. So I could wait several more years. But I have a lot of positive things about my case. One being that I'm not on dialysis. A transplant recipient that has not been on dialysis has a better chance, a better outcome, longer life of the new kidney. I don't have other underlying health conditions, so I'm stronger, So all the signs are really good for me and for Debbie. Being as fit and healthy as she is, we're convinced that she'll be out of the hospital quick and will recover fine. She does have a couple of years after this that you're going to monitor her closely to make sure everything's okay. But it's just really hard to say, Sarina, because I am otherwise healthy. But right now I can tell you I am tired. My energy is dwindling, and I know something has to give here soon. And in 10 days, when I get that transplant and once I recover, I'm going to feel better than I've felt in the past 25 years. And I'm excited. I'm happy. I'm thrilled. I can't wait.
It's amazing how the two of you came together, and thank goodness the surgery can even happen at this period that we're living in because of the coronavirus crisis. Of course, a lot of these type of surgeries, unfortunately, were delayed, right? So thank goodness you've passed that hurdle as well. But the real message in this is it's amazing, and I'm still thinking like how all of this came together. What do you think? It's amazing. So what do you think the message is in this whole story? What do you think the message is? We'll start with you, Debbie. We can start with or Debra, would you like to go first?
Sure, I'll just go. Okay. I kind of have a weird sense of humor, but I really love my Chamber of Commerce. And I don't know how many people have actually received a kidney donation from one of their chamber contacts. But really, honestly about it is I've always had a positive attitude. I think that's what helped me 25 years get off of dialysis and live the past 25 years that I have. And I have a positive attitude, outlook for what the future looks like for both of us. But my real message is, and it's why I started my Facebook page. It wasn't that I was out advertising for a kidney for myself. I really wasn't even comfortable about doing that yet. But that anyone, not everyone can be a live donor like Debbie Lundberg. It obviously takes a special person to want to do something like that, but everybody can register to be an organ donor at the end of their life. So I just really like to encourage everyone to register. You can go to the website donatelife.org to register to be a donor, not just for your kidney, but all your organs, tissues, your corneas, and you can help from just by doing that, save up to 75 people's lives. At the end of your life. And when they say it's the gift of life, it truly is. So that's my message. And I don't know. I'm just very lucky that Debbie is in my world and that she felt compelled to help me in this way. And I just really love her for it.
So sweet. And Debbie, how about you? I mean, it's amazing. I mean, one post leads to this.
Well, even though we say we were social media acquaintances and chamber friends back then, as you know, I've grown to love Debra too, and I think that the relationship is what's lasting, certainly for us. The idea that Debra will keep doing all the good things she's doing and have even more energy to do it, and who knows all the wonderful things, because she's already done a lot of great things. And I'd say the message to people is we often think of worst case scenario, and I just think of the best case scenario. As Debra said with her sense of humor, my thought is I've had both these kidneys for over 50 years, and hey, apparently I haven't needed both of them. So what am I doing hogging up both of them?
Oh.
And if we just give, we think of giving of time, we think of giving of money, but what if you could give something from your body and it make a difference and it not really set you back much? And so I just wish that out of this, that absolutely everything Debra said, the donor, I was an organ donor and still am for when I pass. And if I hadn't been a match for Debra, we may have ended up in that exchange program. But since we are, if we hadn't been willing to explore it, then we wouldn't have learned that we are a match. And I just think, are there people out there who, for some reason, think the worst thing could happen, that they might have a problem? Well, there's a lot more of the best case scenarios that really happen to us in life. And if we focus on those and we ask all the questions and we're very thorough, the way Tampa General Hospital has been, then I don't see the point of not giving, even if it is part of your body that you give, because it can make a difference.
So beautifully said, and what a wonderful perspective on giving and how we can all make a difference. Well, we are going to watch your journey, and I hope to share your journey further. So please promise me, Debra and Debbie, that you will come back on the podcast after a very successful transplant. We're putting that out there right now because we know it's going to be fantastic and we know it's great. You both are so amazing. You're so inspiring. And again, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Sarina.
Thank you.